What are your thoughts on like the future of HR and people? And where do you see the field evolving in the coming years? You've seen some shit.
I've seen some shit. I've seen a lot of shit. And like you always say, nobody predicts a pandemic and nobody predicts these things. And I go back to, the book's probably 3 years old. Lori Rudiman wrote a book. She's great, by the way. She wrote a book on betting on you. It's a lot of stories, career advice, really great. I recommend it to anybody looking for a job or thinking about a career change. And she talked about the future of work being filled with data scientists and psychologists. And although I don't think that that's totally going to happen, that thought isn't wrong. So we're getting involved in people's lives and in people's mental health in ways that were unthinkable when I started my career. We're much more data-driven as a profession. We're still a long way to go, and much more data-driven as a department in my company than we ever were in my career. And, data tells us so much, and it tells a story, and it can help knit things together. So I think parts of that are true. I also see, AI. We haven't mentioned AI, which is like the longest I've talked in months without mentioning the word AI, 45 minutes without AI coming in at all, like is really refreshing, but I'm going to bring it in here. So where we're seeing AI, particularly generative AI, coming in and changing things, which is wonderful and scary at the same time. So I actually I talked about this the other day, and this is scary. This is scary to people like me. I see roles like mine and yours becoming more fractional, becoming more like for two reasons. So becoming more advisory and more external for two reasons. A lot of people are leaving and want to work for themselves. A lot of incredibly talented people leaders have had it with corporate, right? And want to work for themselves. Yeah. And the other thing is AI changing things so much is, parts of our jobs, parts of everybody's jobs will be automated. I'm not saying that companies won't have full-time HR leaders. Don't jump on me there. They will. That will happen. But in smaller, mid-sized companies, I see fractional, not just for HR, but for finance, for marketing. I really do see, our mutual friend Anessa talks about this a lot. I really do see that changing in the next number of years, because you could get a really talented person for a fraction of the amount of money. So large companies will operate much the same. They'll automate a lot. They'll streamline a lot. I think smaller companies will get smarter about how they use talent. I think we're seeing that in other areas of the business now. And I think we're going to see that in the executive ranks coming up too. And it's not going to look like, well, I work 9 to 5 at a job, 40 hours a week. It's going to be a choose your own adventure type of thing.
Oh, I love a good
for all levels
adventure.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I hope so.
That's fascinating. I think our job is like so that's what I'm looking for, not dimensional or not faceted. There's a lot of skills that fall under the umbrella of HR. So like where your sales leader potentially is like really good at selling, closing, negotiation. That is a part of also HR. But on top of that, we also have to be coaches. We have to be therapists to a certain extent. We have to be able to identify bad behaviors in the workplace. Like we have to be able to coach people. We're conflict resolution. So we also manage the biggest part of the budget, headcount. So there are a lot of skills that fall into the HR bucket that are not just HR. Like all of your leaders have their skills. And then I also have all of those skills under my umbrella of skills. And so the fractional direction, I think, does make a lot of sense. Like if you can lean on a talent leader that specifically does this one thing really well versus trying to get an HR leader to do everything really well. Because the reality is, and I'll say it, like I can't do everything really well. I can do a few things really great if I'm just focused on those few things. And so fractional is a very interesting path for a lot of people.
Yeah.